She is not loud. She does not chase attention or explain her pain to the world. She carries her struggles quietly, with dignity only Allah sees. While others are noticed, she is being shaped. While others are praised, she is being prepared. This reminder is not for every woman. It is for the woman who feels unseen, unheard, and sometimes forgotten, but still chooses faith over bitterness. If you feel hidden, delayed, or quietly tested, understand this: Allah does not raise every woman publicly. Some women are elevated in silence, and when they rise, it is undeniable. She is hidden because she is being prepared. The woman Allah raises quietly is often placed in seasons where her efforts go unnoticed and her struggles are misunderstood, not because she lacks worth, but because her worth is too sacred to be exposed before its time. She lives in a world that celebrates noise and visibility, yet her journey unfolds in silence, where growth happens away from applause and strength is built far from the eyes of people. While others are being seen, she is being shaped, refined, and strengthened in ways that cannot happen in comfort or recognition. In her quiet days, Allah is teaching her patience that does not complain, resilience that does not harden the heart, and faith that does not depend on immediate results. She learns how to stand alone without feeling abandoned, how to trust without constant reassurance, and how to keep her character intact even when life feels unfair. These moments feel heavy because they are meaningful, and they feel slow because true preparation is never rushed. She may question why her prayers take longer to unfold, why doors close when she is ready to walk through them, and why her path feels lonelier than others. But what she does not yet see is that Allah is protecting her from premature exposure. Not every blessing can survive early visibility, and not every soul is ready to carry responsibility before wisdom is formed. So she is placed in hidden seasons where her intentions are purified, her reliance deepens, and her heart learns to turn fully toward Allah rather than people. In this preparation, she is taught the difference between attention and honor, between validation and peace, and between being chosen by people and being chosen by Allah. Slowly, without realizing it, she becomes emotionally grounded, spiritually anchored, and inwardly strong. By the time elevation arrives, she no longer needs it to feel whole, because the preparation has already completed what recognition never could. Her quiet tears are never ignored. The woman Allah raises quietly often carries a private weight that few people ever notice, a weight formed by unspoken disappointments, unanswered questions, and moments of pain she chose not to explain to anyone. She learns early that not every hurt needs an audience, and not every tear needs to be justified. So she carries herself with dignity even when her heart feels heavy. What appears like strength on the outside is often endurance on the inside, and what looks like calm is frequently a woman holding herself together through faith alone. There are nights when she feels the depth of her loneliness most clearly, when the world finally goes silent and her heart begins to speak. In those moments, she does not turn to attention or validation. She turns inward and upward, trusting that Allah hears what her voice cannot say out loud. Every tear that falls in solitude, every breath taken through pain, and every prayer whispered in exhaustion is known, recorded, and valued. Nothing sincere ever disappears in silence. Allah reminds us of this truth in the Quran. Indeed, Allah is gentle with His servants. This gentleness is not loud or dramatic, but it is constant, precise, and deeply personal. It is the gentleness that meets her in her lowest moments, steadies her when she feels close to breaking, and reassures her when she wonders if her patience is worth it. Even when relief feels delayed, divine care is never absent. Through this quiet suffering, her heart is softened rather than hardened, and her faith becomes anchored rather than shaken. She learns that pain does not mean rejection, And waiting does not mean abandonment. Allah allows her to pass through emotional trials, not to diminish her, but to teach her how to rely on Him with sincerity rather than expectation. Her tears are shaping her humility, her endurance, and her spiritual depth in ways ease never could. Another reminder from the Quran speaks directly to her heart. Allah does not burden a soul beyond what it can bear. This promise is not meant to deny her pain, but to affirm her strength. The weight she carries is a sign of what she is capable of becoming, and the patience she practices now is preparing her for a future where her stability will be a source of light for herself and others. What feels like breaking is often strengthening, and what feels like delay is often protection unfolding in unseen ways. She protects her worth, even when no one is watching. The woman Allah raises quietly reaches a point where she understands that her value is not proven by how many people stay, applaud, or choose her, but by how faithfully she protects her heart, her character, and her trust in Allah when no one is watching. She learns that not every explanation is required, and not every misunderstanding needs to be corrected, because Allah already knows the truth of her intentions. This realization brings a calm confidence that does not seek validation and a strength that does not depend on being understood. She no longer exhausts herself trying to be seen by people who overlook her sincerity, nor does she lower her standards to fit into spaces that require her to compromise her dignity. Instead, she chooses restraint over reaction, silence over argument, and self respect over temporary comfort. These choices are not easy, especially when she feels deeply, cares sincerely, and gives wholeheartedly. But she understands that preserving her inner peace is more valuable than proving her worth to those who cannot recognize it. There are moments when walking away quietly feels heavier than speaking up loudly, when maintaining boundaries feels lonelier than allowing disrespect, and when choosing patience feels harder than seeking immediate relief. Yet she holds on to the certainty that what is meant for her will arrive with honor, not humiliation, and with peace, not chaos. She trusts that Allah sees every time she restrains herself for His sake, and that nothing done with sincerity is ever wasted, even if it is never acknowledged by people. As her faith matures, she becomes selective, not out of pride, but out of wisdom. She understands that access to her time, her emotions, and her presence is a responsibility, not a right. This discernment protects her from emotional exhaustion and spiritual imbalance, allowing her to remain soft hearted without becoming fragile and kind, without becoming vulnerable to harm. She does not close her heart, but she guards it carefully, knowing that a protected heart is better able to love with sincerity and patience. In this quiet guarding of her worth, Allah prepares her for relationships, opportunities, and responsibilities that require emotional stability and spiritual clarity. By the time elevation comes, she is no longer seeking to be chosen because she already knows she is held, valued, and supported by Allah. Her confidence is calm, her presence is grounded, and her strength is unmistakable, not because she demanded it from the world, but because she learned to honor herself in the unseen moments where true character is formed. Allah removes people to protect her elevation. Before Allah raises a woman quietly, He often begins by changing the people around her, not suddenly, but gradually, in ways that feel confusing and painful at first. She notices relationships becoming distant, conversations losing their warmth, and connections fading without clear explanations. People she once relied on no longer understand her heart, and those she expected support from begin to drift away. This phase hurts deeply because she is someone who values loyalty, emotional connection, and sincerity. Yet she finds herself standing alone more often than she ever imagined. At first, she blames herself. She wonders if she asked for too much, trusted too deeply, or cared more than she should have. She replays conversations in her mind, searching for the moment where everything shifted. But clarity does not come immediately. What she does not realize yet is that Allah is gently removing what no longer aligns with the woman she is becoming. Not everyone who walked with her was meant to stand beside her at the next stage of her life, and not every familiar presence was safe for her growth. Allah, in His wisdom, knows who would slow her down, who would drain her emotionally, and who would keep her tied to versions of herself she has already outgrown. Some people are comfortable with her pain, but uncomfortable with her growth, supportive of her struggles, but threatened by her strength. So Allah creates distance, not to punish her, but to protect her heart and her future. What feels like loss is often release, and what feels like rejection is often redirection, unfolding quietly. This separation teaches her painful but powerful lessons about dependence and trust. She learns that relying too heavily on people can leave the heart vulnerable, but relying on Allah brings stability even in loneliness. She begins to understand that companionship is a blessing, not a guarantee, and that her worth does not decrease simply because someone chooses not to stay. Through this process, her attachment shifts from people to purpose, from expectations to acceptance, and from fear of being alone to peace in divine care. As the circle around her becomes smaller, her inner world becomes stronger. She gains clarity about what she truly needs, what she will no longer tolerate, and what kind of energy she allows close to her heart. This clarity does not make her cold or distant. It makes her grounded and emotionally mature. She becomes more intentional with her words, more careful with her trust, and more aware of how precious her emotional space truly is. There are days when the loneliness feels heavy and the silence echoes loudly, but even in those moments, Allah is present. He fills the gaps left by people with understanding, patience, and an inner calm that cannot be explained. She begins to notice that although fewer people surround her, she feels less drained, less anxious, and more at peace than before. The chaos fades, the confusion settles, and her heart slowly finds rest in the certainty that Allah never removes something without a reason and never takes away without planning something better. By the time Allah is ready to elevate her, she is no longer dependent on approval, validation, or emotional support from those who were never meant to carry her future. She stands stronger, clearer, and more secure, knowing that what remains in her life is aligned, sincere, and safe. The people who enter after this season recognize her worth without her having to explain it, respect her boundaries without resistance, and value her presence without conditions. What once felt like isolation reveals itself as divine protection, and what once felt like loss transforms into the foundation of her elevation. Her patience is quiet, but it is powerful. The woman Allah raises quietly reaches a stage where patience is no longer something she practices only in hardship, but something that shapes the way she sees life, people, and herself. Her patience is not loud or performative, and it is not rooted in weakness or fear. It is born from understanding, from lived experience, and from a deep trust that Allah is always working behind the scenes, even when nothing appears to be changing on the surface. She has learned that reacting quickly may ease the heart temporarily, but enduring with dignity builds a strength that lasts. There were times when she wanted to speak up, defend herself, and explain her intentions to be understood, yet she chose restraint instead. Not because she had nothing to say, but because she understood that not everyone deserves access to her inner world. She realized that explaining herself to the wrong people only drains her spirit and delays her healing. So she learned to be patient with misunderstandings, calm in the face of judgment, and steady even when her silence was misinterpreted as weakness. This patience did not come easily. It was formed through disappointment, strengthened through loss, and refined through repeated moments where she had to choose faith over frustration. There were days when she felt tired of waiting, tired of hoping, and tired of trusting without visible results. Yet even in those moments, something within her refused to harden. She continued to show kindness without expectation, to forgive without apology, and to move forward without bitterness. This choice to remain soft in a hard season is one of the greatest strengths a woman can carry. As time passed, her patience began to change her internally. She became less reactive and more reflective, less impulsive and more intentional. She learned how to pause before responding, how to sit with discomfort without letting it define her, and how to trust divine timing even when her heart longed for clarity. Waiting no longer felt like punishment. It became a space for growth, self awareness, and spiritual grounding. Through patience, she discovered that peace does not always come from answers, but from acceptance. Allah honors this kind of patience in ways people often do not notice at first. Doors begin to open naturally, without force or struggle. Opportunities align without her chasing them. The right people enter her life without confusion or chaos. What once required effort now flows with ease, because patience has refined her judgment and aligned her heart with what truly serves her. She no longer rushes decisions out of fear of being left behind, because she understands that what is meant for her arrives with calm, not anxiety. Her patience also teaches her discernment. She becomes aware of what drains her energy and what nourishes her soul. She learns to step away from situations that require her to constantly prove her worth and toward environments that recognize it effortlessly. This discernment allows her to protect her emotional well being while remaining compassionate, strong without becoming rigid, and trusting without becoming naive. She no longer feels the need to force outcomes because patience has shown her that forced doors often lead to unnecessary pain. By the time Allah begins to lift her, her patience has already transformed her into someone capable of handling elevation with humility and grace. She is no longer desperate for change because she has learned how to be steady in uncertainty. She is no longer afraid of waiting because waiting taught her who she is. What others see as quiet endurance, Allah sees as powerful preparation, and what felt like long delays were shaping her into a woman strong enough to carry what is coming without losing herself. Her elevation arrives suddenly, but it was written long ago. The woman Allah raises quietly often experiences a moment where life begins to shift in ways she cannot fully explain, as if doors start opening without effort and clarity replaces confusion almost overnight. To those watching from the outside, her change seems sudden, unexpected, and almost effortless. Yet they do not see the years of unseen endurance that led to this moment. What appears like an instant transformation is in reality the result of countless quiet choices, private prayers, and patient endurance that were shaping her long before anyone noticed. There were seasons when nothing seemed to move, when she felt stuck in waiting while others progressed ahead of her, and when hope felt fragile despite her faith. She continued to show up, continued to trust, and continued to move forward, even when she felt emotionally tired and spiritually stretched. Each time she chose to rely on Allah rather than despair, she was being prepared for a future that would require strength without arrogance and confidence without pride. These unseen moments were not delays. They were foundations being laid carefully and precisely. When elevation begins, it does not come with chaos or fear, but with a quiet sense of alignment. She finds herself at peace with opportunities she once would have rushed into and cautious with situations that once would have excited her unnecessarily. Her intuition feels sharper, her decisions feel calmer, and her heart feels settled rather than anxious. This inner steadiness is a sign that preparation has done its work, because true elevation does not overwhelm the soul, it confirms it. People may suddenly notice her strength, her clarity, and her presence, assuming she gained it quickly or effortlessly. They may ask how she became so confident, so composed, or so grounded, unaware that this confidence was forged in loneliness and this composure was built through repeated surrender. She does not feel the need to explain her journey because she understands that the most meaningful growth happens beyond words. Those who are meant to recognize her value will do so naturally, without her having to convince them. Allah brings her elevation at a time when she no longer depends on it for validation. She is lifted when she is emotionally stable, spiritually anchored, and inwardly complete, not when she is desperate or insecure. This timing is deliberate, because elevation without grounding can damage the heart, while elevation after preparation strengthens it. By the time blessings arrive, she has already learned how to hold them with gratitude rather than fear, and how to walk in them without losing humility. What once felt like isolation now reveals its purpose, and what once felt like silence now feels like sanctuary. She recognizes that every closed door, every delayed answer, and every quiet struggle was guiding her toward this moment of alignment. Nothing was wasted, and nothing was random. Allah was arranging her steps carefully, protecting her heart, while positioning her life for growth that would be sustainable rather than overwhelming. As she steps into this new chapter, she does so without bitterness toward the past and without fear of the future. Her heart carries peace instead of resentment and trust instead of anxiety. She understands now that Allah raises certain women quietly so that when they stand, they do so firmly, gracefully, and with an inner strength that cannot be shaken. What others see as sudden success is, in truth, the visible result of years of unseen faithfulness. She is raised with peace, not noise. When Allah finally raises the woman He prepared quietly, it does not happen with loud announcements or sudden chaos, but with a calm certainty that settles deeply within her heart. There is no rush, no fear, and no confusion, because by this stage, she is no longer seeking elevation to prove her worth. She has already learned who she is through patience, loss, restraint, and trust, and that knowledge anchors her more firmly than any external success ever could. What changes around her feels natural, almost gentle, because her soul has already adjusted to the woman she was becoming long before the world noticed. She moves differently now, not because life suddenly became easy, but because her heart is no longer shaken by every delay, opinion, or obstacle. The things that once unsettled her no longer hold the same power, and the silence that once felt heavy now feels protective. She has learned how to remain calm when situations are uncertain, how to stay kind without losing boundaries, and how to trust without demanding immediate answers. This inner peace is not accidental. It is the reward of endurance, practiced quietly for a long time. Her relationship with Allah feels deeper and more personal than ever before. She no longer approaches faith only in moments of need or desperation, but in moments of gratitude, reflection, and stillness. She understands now that the closeness she feels was built during nights when she felt alone, during prayers whispered through tears, and during seasons where faith was her only anchor. What once felt like silence from Allah now reveals itself as intimate guidance, shaping her heart gently but firmly. As she looks back, she begins to recognize how perfectly each stage of her journey was arranged. The disappointments taught her discernment, the loneliness taught her self-awareness, and the waiting taught her patience. Even the moments that once felt like setbacks are now clearly seen as protection. She realizes that if certain doors had opened earlier, she would not have been ready to walk through them with strength or wisdom. Everything arrived exactly when her heart was strong enough to receive it without losing itself. This woman no longer fears being unseen, because she understands that true honor does not depend on constant visibility. She has learned that being chosen by Allah is far more meaningful than being chosen by people, and being protected is often more valuable than being praised. She does not measure her success by attention or approval, but by peace, alignment, and the ability to remain grounded regardless of circumstances. Her confidence is quiet, her faith is steady, and her presence carries calm rather than noise. There is also a deep softness in her now, not the kind that allows others to take advantage of her, but the kind that comes from healing rather than hardening. She still feels deeply, still cares sincerely, and still shows compassion, but she does so without losing herself. Her kindness is intentional, her generosity is measured, and her trust is guided by wisdom rather than fear. She understands that strength and gentleness are not opposites, but qualities that grow together when rooted in faith. People may notice that she no longer reacts the way she used to, that she remains composed in situations that once overwhelmed her, and that she no longer chases what walks away. What they do not see is that this calm is the result of inner work done in private, lessons learned through quiet endurance, and a heart that has finally learned to rest in divine wisdom. She is no longer trying to control outcomes because she trusts the one who controls them far more than she trusts her own understanding. When blessings begin to appear in her life, she receives them with gratitude rather than disbelief. She does not question whether she deserves them because she knows they are not rewards for perfection, but gifts from mercy. She also does not cling to them out of fear of loss, because she understands that what Allah gives in peace is never meant to destroy stability. This balance allows her to enjoy what arrives without anxiety and to let go of what leaves without bitterness. Her past no longer defines her, but it informs her. She carries the lessons forward without carrying the pain, the wisdom without the wounds, and the memories without the weight. She understands now that healing does not mean forgetting, but learning how to move forward without allowing the past to dictate the future. This understanding frees her emotionally and spiritually, allowing her to live with intention rather than reaction. In the quiet confidence of this stage, she becomes a source of comfort to others without trying to be. Her presence reassures, her words carry weight, and her silence feels safe. Not because she presents herself as perfect, but because she embodies sincerity, humility, and emotional stability. She has nothing to prove, nothing to hide, and nothing to chase. She is at peace with where she has been, where she is, and where she is going. This is the woman Allah raises quietly, a woman who was shaped in patience, refined in solitude, strengthened through faith, and elevated with peace. Her journey reminds us that silence is not absence, waiting is not loss, and hardship is not rejection. Sometimes, the most beautiful transformations happen away from the noise, where only Allah sees the becoming, and when the time is right, allows the world to witness the result. If this message reached your heart, know that it was not by chance. Some reminders arrive exactly when the soul is ready to receive them, when the heart has grown tired of carrying weight silently and needs reassurance more than answers. If you are that woman who has been growing in the unseen, healing without applause, and trusting without certainty, understand that your journey has never been overlooked. What felt like delay was shaping you. What felt like silence was protecting you. What felt like loneliness was strengthening your connection with Allah in ways comfort never could. You were not hidden because you were unworthy. You were hidden because what is meant for you is too meaningful to be rushed. When Allah raises a woman quietly, He raises her with wisdom, peace, and stability, not with chaos or confusion. And when your moment comes, you will realize that every tear, every prayer, and every moment of patience was part of a mercy you could not yet see. Until then, keep walking with dignity, keep trusting with sincerity, and keep believing that what is written for you will arrive gently, clearly, and at the right time. O Allah, for every woman who is growing quietly, strengthen her heart with patience and calm her soul with trust. Replace her unseen struggles with peace, her waiting with wisdom, and her pain with healing. Protect her dignity, honor her intentions, and guide her steps toward what is best for her in this life and beyond. Grant her clarity where there is confusion, comfort where there is loneliness, and reassurance where there is fear. Raise her not with noise, but with peace, not with haste, but with perfect timing. Let her heart rest in the certainty that you see her, you know her, and you are taking care of her in ways she does not yet understand. Amen.